quote from two news sources what was said by Judge Zimmerman. Judge Zimmerman has voluntarily taken a temporary leave of absence, but he has stated he is not resigning from the bench. The Defenders Association has asked for his resignation. And I'll just remind everybody, as a district court judge, he is an elected official. No one other than the Commission on Judicial Conduct can remove him from office unless he voluntarily does so. The prosecutor's office said they will not be sending any cases to Judge Zimmerman to be heard from their office until the Commission on Judicial Conduct completes their investigation into this matter. The the Clark County Volunteer Legal Program has asked for his resignation because of what he said. Legal Counsel for Youth and Children has now sent a letter supporting the directors of the Clark County Volunteer Lawyers Program. The Superior Court Judges and Municipal Court Judges Association have issued a statement within the last day or two condemning racist statements by any judge. So my motion is to send a letter to the Commission on Judicial Conduct, again, stressing the fact that it is central to our board's work to, if you will, eradicate racism within the justice system and make it a justice system and not just a simple legal system. About those of us who are lawyers and judges, really, it's a privilege to hold our titles, our offices. And when we breach the public's trust, we have to face the consequences of doing that. The letter notes that the commission, in fact, its mission is to protect the integrity of the judicial system. And certainly that is also a mission of our board. So the letter is drafted and I'm making this motion to send the proposed letter.
Thank you, sir. I want to remind everyone that we are recording this meeting so others who can't make it can watch it later. So any discussion on the letter?
Well, is there a second to the motion?
Oh yes, the motion.
There is, I do. This is Esperanza. You're probably going to kill me, Sal. I was looking at the letter from the volunteer lawyer programs, and it's a pretty strong letter. And I think given that this is the Access to Justice Board, and our letter, although it's it's calling out what has happened, there is some language in that volunteer lawyer program letter to me that we might look at and incorporate into the letter that we have. And I know that we just got done discussing it, but I hadn't seen the letter. I'm just looking at it. And it just being a little bit more, we need to be more direct, I think. This is a serious issue, and we do have people who on the bench who are racist. I mean, it's just how it is. We know that. And so the more that we can be very explicit in how we call that out and say exactly what it is that we want to see happen, I think the closer we'll get to making those changes happen. And I know for the board, we just got done discussing this and talked about this letter. So, new information, new thoughts, and in my head. So, something to consider. Thank you.
So do we? Thank you, SP. Do we have a second to Sal's letter?
I'll second
Judge Bradley?
Yeah.
Judge Bradley, second the letter. Any discussion? Now let's go to discussion. It's been second. The motion has been moved for the letter. Okay, Judge Corbett, Judge Bradley, and Michelle. Okay, Judge Corbett.
Obviously, we could always tweak the letter, but sometimes what's important is, the overall tone of the letter, not the specific language. This is a good letter, and I think we need to get it out soon. And I don't think we debate the language. I think we get it out. We vote up or down on the letter. Thank you.
Judge Bradley?
Yeah, while I appreciate SB's sentiment, I guess even though some of it was recorded on Zoom, it's the Commission on Judicial Conduct. It's their job to investigate, get all the facts, and make a decision. And so I kind of agree with Fred. It's just important to remind them of the seriousness of this, and that we recognize it's a serious issue and ask them to investigate fully and do what they think is appropriate based on the facts they find.
All right.
Can I? Sorry.
SP, can you hold that thought?
Sure.
In our discussion at the working session, I believe Michelle had made suggestions with regards to improving the second paragraph. So I'll give Michelle the floor on that, and then we come back to SP.
I would like to, well, I don't want to mess up the flow too much. If SB wants to respond directly, she can. This can be part of the discussion also. I guess I would move to amend Sal's motion to include some language in the second paragraph of the letter. So after the sentence that says, this mistreatment still continues today, I'm proposing adding the sentence, not only is it reflected by these recent events, but it has also been reported to us by the community advisory panel set up by the board following our call to action. And I'm happy to discuss that, but I'm not sure procedurally if it needs to be seconded first.
Yes, so this amendment to Sal motion, second.
I second.
Thank you, Judge Bradley. SP, discussion?
Just that I appreciate the statements. I appreciate the statements regarding language, but it's language that got us here in the first place. It's somebody's language and somebody's words that got us here in the first place. And so you're right, language is a key, and it's a focus on this. And I don't know. I'm a little frustrated, myself as well, for not having caught this earlier. So I'm not frustrated with the board. I'm not frustrated with the letter. I'm frustrated more at myself at this point. And would feel remiss if I did not bring up that it's a procedural thing. We need to get a letter out, and we want to make sure that the language is a good language. However, given what language does to human lives in our society today, I don't think our language is strong enough. And so I'd be willing to send you some language, Sal, to possibly consider to put in the letter, and
so SB,
go from there.
So SB, in case this helps, the Clark County VLP requested two actions. One is an immediate resignation of Judge Zimmerman. And from our discussion today, I think the majority of the board is willing to wait on the judicial conduct before they make any of that. The second request for action from the VLP is a commitment from Clark County District and Superior Court to continue to broadcast hearings via the internet, even after the COVID-19 public emergency subsides. Are those the two actions you want the board to consider in this letter or not? SP?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I would like those to be considered. And anyway, it's a longer conversation, not for right now, but at some point, within the board, and I think in the broader legal community, it's, how do we move things forward in a way that sometimes I think we're a little slow in how we move things forward and what the impact that we have in the community with our process. So, but yes, Francis.
All right, thank you. Sir, do you accept Michelle's friendly amendment or not?
It's not up to me to accept the amendment. I mean, the amendment's before the board should vote on the amended language. And then I would like to address at the end of this, some of the comments being made. Why don't we vote on Michelle's?
On Michelle's amendment.
Right.
Okay, Michelle has made a motion to amend the second paragraph with the language that she stated. Any second?
It has been seconded.
It has been seconded by Judge Bradley. All in favor? Aye. Or let me see, can you vote by, there is a, in your reaction, there is a thumbs up. All in favor, can I see you with a thumbs up? All right. Terry, yes. Miria, yes. Judge Bradley, yes. Judge Keenan, yes. SP?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
Lindy.
Want to let her go out.
Lindy, yes. No, we are voting on the amendment. This is the amendment, SP.
Yes.
The amendment by Michelle.
Amendment.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So back to you, Sal. The amendment have been. Oh, any opposed? I think
I'm an abstention on that, Francis.
you are abstention. Okay. I voted yes too. So, all right. Now we come back to you, sir.
Okay, just a couple of brief points. I agree with Esperanza that sometimes our processes are slow. That's why I think we should get this letter out. Well, it will have the biggest impact. Two, I do think it takes us exactly where we should be taking as a board. Again, emphasizing how important these issues are. Three, this is not the end. This board can take further actions, but I do think it's important to get this out. We do know that the Commission on Judicial Conduct is going to be meeting in April. I believe we're on the second or third week. I think, again, I don't want this thing to be delayed. We can take further action. We can send a letter to Clark County saying we think you should continue broadcasting your Zoom. That doesn't have the same time urgency as I believe this letter does.
Yes. Thank you. So let's vote on sending out the on the letter as amended. Sorry.
Davis has her hand up.
Judge Keenan?
No, Caitlin Davis.
Caitlin.
No, my hand is always up and I can't make it go away. Sorry.
Just click back on it. Click back on the same thing. Okay, Caitlin. We love you, Caitlin. All right. Let's vote on the motion itself as amended. All in favor, let me see. Thumbs up. All right, Michelle, thumbs up. Okay. SP? SP, you're the one we're waiting on. Okay, yes, okay. All right, unanimously adopted the letter as amended. All right, now we go to, I'm sorry to everyone that is on the agenda today because we have to take that important topic. Now we want to introduce Dua Abudiab, the KCBA new executive director. I'm asking Anne Daly. Is Annie on the call?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I see you. Now take the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Francis. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be able to introduce our new executive director at the King County Bar Association to you today, Dua Abudiab. And Dua comes to us from after practicing as a public defender, both here in King County and in Colorado, and has been very actively involved in the Middle Eastern Lawyers Association, Washington Women Lawyers, and a variety of other community organizations. And I think this is the end of week 4. Yeah. So anyway, she's doing great and we're thrilled that she's here, and I'll let her say a few words.
Thank you so much. And I like to thank Anne for holding down the fort for a very long time and making sure KCBA is in good standing. I'm just honored to be here. Thank you guys for working with KCBA. And I just see this as an opportunity for KCBA to work on our mission and our foundation through a race equity lens. And I'm hoping we can team up with you guys to make that happen. So thank you for the opportunity. And yes, it's officially 1 month.
I believe Caitlin state in the chat, there is a great profile of Dua in the March Bar Bulletin. I'm encouraging everyone to go read that. And there is love being sent to you, Dua. We love you. We appreciate you joining this team, and we're looking forward to a great partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, ATJ Conference updates. Is Junior or Vanessa here, or are they asking me to make their report? Diana, do you know?
I think you're on deck, I think, because they weren't able to make it today.
All right. So the ATJ conference planning has been meeting. We are making great stride. We are reviewing all the proposal, all the RFP, and we are in the final stages of getting out all the themes for each day and all the topics that will be covered on each day. And the outreach committee is making strenuous effort to reach out to communities of color and underrepresented communities to be able to have a voice at the conference. This is going to be a community-led, going by our experience at the last conference, you know, there is no way we can beat that conference, but if there is any effort to beat that conference, you will see a lot of community voices at the table at this conference. And we are hoping to get as many communities' voices in this conference as possible. And so that we're also looking at having, if the situation permits, having opportunity to be able to highlight the challenges that unrepresented communities face and that some of our minority communities in Washington State face. And we are looking at solutions. We're not just looking at a place where we come to talk about how bad the system is. We're looking at real thought-provoking solutions that can help address the system and make the changes needed. So this conference is marching on. We're looking for sponsorship, especially from law firms that are willing to sponsor some of these, our community members' representation, because we are asking community to provide their voices, and we want to pay them to provide their voices, especially those that have been through the trauma inflicted, some of it inflicted by the justice system. We are asking to pay them to come and speak to us. So we are seriously looking for sponsorship, and we would appreciate that. All right, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. All right, any discussion on the conference? If you need more information, please contact Junior and Vanessa. They are better, they can speak to this issue better than I. And Diana, could you provide their email in the chats, please? Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, we go to ATJ Board Internal Equity Work Group update, George Keenan and Michelle Lucas.
Thank you, Francis. I will be providing this update, and I'll keep it short because I know that we have a really packed agenda today. As I'm not sure if everybody does know, but for the past several years, especially basically after the adoption of the state plan, the Access to Justice Board has been going on an internal race equity journey. And part of that is because we realize that we can't just promote more equitable practices across the Alliance without making sure that, without doing an internal look at ourselves, making sure that our board culture is sound, making sure that we are leading by example and doing trying to set good standards for how this can be done. So we've had a lot of discussions, a lot of difficult discussions trying to get to the root of how we can make our practices more equitable. And part of this, we've recently adopted last month kind of a longer term internal race equity plan. And as part of that plan, it includes regular check-ins and updates at meetings so that there's accountability, so that we can show that we are continually taking action. So I just wanted to talk to folks briefly about what some of these plans are. It's laid out into some shorter term and longer term strategies. A few of the things that we are looking at is reviewing our recruitment processes, making sure that we are getting diverse experiences and perspectives. That's something that, of course, we've always strived to do, but kind of looking more closely at where are the gaps, what kinds of perspectives are we lacking on this board, and how do we proactively reach out to those communities better to try and bring them on board and have their voices heard. Community accountability is a big portion of what we're looking at, and part of that involves working with the community advisory panel that was put together after the call to action from last summer. And that gives an opportunity so that's a community accountability process. It allows a solid conduit. There's always going to be this connection, so we know that we are responding to the community needs and not overlaying what we believe the right solutions are as legal providers. Some of the other things is making sure that board meeting spaces are more inclusive, that we are using, making sure that, we have pronouns, just making sure accessibility is an option. I know that's something we've talked about before, was including captioning, maybe looking at the use of interpreter channels, that making it so that these public meetings really are public, especially, and hopefully something that can be transitioned into when we are meeting in person again. And then also just ongoing training with board members, and we have done, pockets of work to really look internally into ourselves and how we function as a board, but making sure that it's an ongoing process. It's not like we did a 2-hour training here and now we don't have to think about it, but having some individual accountability and making sure that it's just something that's constantly on our agenda and something we're constantly thinking about, which goes back to why we're giving these updates to everybody. And so that's a very brief overview of a much larger plan, but I just wanted to let folks know that we're working on that. And if people have any questions, if people want to see the plan, that's certainly something that we can share, but please let us know.
Thank you, Michelle. Any question or comments for Michelle and Judge Keenan? All right, we move on to the next topic on the agenda, which is Judge Keenan, APR 11 and 1.8 rule.
Thank you, Francis. So APR 11, Admission to Practice Rule 11, this is on the agenda for the board to consider whether to write in support of a revision to that rule. You might recall that last year, the board was asked by the Mandatory Continuing Legal Education Board to support the concept of revising this rule to require that at least one of the 6 mandatory ethics CLE credits required of attorneys during each reporting period be in the area of equity, inclusion, and the mitigation of both implicit and explicit bias in the legal profession and the practice of law. And at the time, the board voted to support exploring that idea. We wrote back to the MCLE board and said, we think this is a good idea. Come back to us when it's actually been proposed. It is now proposed. It's been published for comment. It has that same language that the board supported in concept before. And so what I'd be looking for is a motion from a board member to support the board. So I would draft a letter for Francis to write and put in the public comments in support of this revised rule, and those comments are due by April 30th.
Sir?
I move that Dave Keenan be authorized to draft a letter for Francis's signature. And basically there's one sent last year, as he mentioned, so hopefully it's not putting too much of a burden on him, to be sent out in support of the proposed rule no later than April 2nd, 2021.
Second?
Second.
Second, Judge Bradley. All in favor? Thumbs up or aye?
Aye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, Maria. Terry, I can't hear you. Terry, are you still there? Okay. Oppose? None, absent? Okay. I would take Terry's vote as absent on this because I couldn't get any vote, any thumbs up or voice from him. All right, so majority vote to adopt this letter. Judge Keenan, next one.
Sure. So now we're on to RPC Rule Professional Conduct 1.8. This is for a more, the ask to the board here is for something more preliminary than what we just did with APR 11. This is on for the board to decide whether to write a letter in support of an informal proposal, so a concept basically to modify RPC 1.8. Currently, RPC 1.8 generally prohibits attorneys from providing financial assistance with certain sort of litigation-related acceptance expenses to clients. The Bar's Committee on Professional Ethics is considering proposing a revision to the rule that would allow lawyers to provide financial assistance, for example, to pro bono clients in a more expanded sense, and it would mirror language that is in model ABA Rule of Professional Conduct 1.8. And so the revision would be that they're exploring is it would say something like a lawyer representing an indigent client pro bono, a lawyer representing an indigent client pro bono through a nonprofit legal services or public interest organization, and a lawyer representing an indigent client pro bono through a law school, clinical, or pro bono program may provide modest gifts to the client for food, rent, transportation, medicine, and other basic living expenses. And we have already run this through the ATJ Board Rules Committee that I chair, and the Rules Committee is recommending that the board write to the Committee on Professional Ethics, telling them that the board supports the concept, the idea of exploring this further, but would need to see a formally proposed rule if there eventually is one before agreeing to support the actual rule change. And so I think what I would be looking for is whether anybody on the board wants to move for us to send a letter to the WSBA Committee on Professional Ethics saying we support the idea, come back to us if you have a formally proposed rule.
Judge Cobbett?
I move for such a letter.
I second.
Second, Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor? I indicate by thumbs up or voice. Thank you. SP, how did you vote?
Sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm on mute. I'm not used to being on the phone, so apologies.
That's okay. All right, and I vote yes too. So this is unanimously adopted by the board. Janice, did you get that? Thank you, Janice. Oh, we should have asked Diana to introduce Janice. I'm sorry, Diana and Janice. All right, now we go to the next issue on the agenda, which is Equal Justice Coalition update, because Jim also needs to go because we're still in the legislative session. So immediately after Will, Jim, if you could go immediately after Will. Will, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Francis. I'll be quick and I'll let Jim get into the details about the state funding. The most important thing we want to express is just echo the message Jim sent out to the listserv yesterday about the Senate Democratic budget proposal, which came out and fully funds the COVID emergency response request that the EJC has been advocating for. Obviously very excited about that. And I put in a request and some instructions about how people can help, which is if you participated in our lobby days, you might want to send a note to your senator, but also everyone on this call before the Senate Ways and Means Committee hearing starts at 1 p.m. can just quickly sign in to submit a written comment in support of the budget proposal. We have some suggested language there just to mention that you support the budget because of its full funding of legal aid. it only takes a couple minutes. They made it pretty easy to do online this year. So I would just ask for those who would like to help out, that's a really quick thing you could do today. And then we're also waiting on the House Democratic budget proposal as well, hopefully with similarly good news about full funding for the COVID response package. That is expected to come out today, and there will be a House Appropriations Committee meeting starting tomorrow morning. So likely later today, I will also put out a request for folks to sign in support of the House budget before tomorrow morning as well. I think that's mostly what I wanted to provide an update on, and I'm sure Jim will get into more detail, but I think Kirsten is on this call too, if there's anything else that we wanted to mention.
Nope,
Jim?
that sounds great. Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Kirsten. Jim?
Thank you and good morning, everybody. Good morning, Dua. It's good to finally meet you in person or virtually, and welcome. So yes, the Senate budget came out yesterday. Will's basically told you what it says relative to the COVID program. It's fully funded at $11 million, $6 million in year one, $5 million in year two. Surprisingly, they used all state general fund dollars, which tells me that we have a strong likelihood of maintaining that level of impact funding. Well, not that level of impact funding, but dedicated COVID-19 impact funding into the succeeding biennium at what we project to be a reduced level of about $3 million per year. Hopefully the waves of the crisis and the echoes of the crisis will have passed substantially, and we won't need to spend as much money as we have on unemployment insurance issues, on some of the eviction issues, because those are going to be offloaded to the Eviction Right to Counsel program. Speaking of the Eviction Right to Counsel program, that too was fully funded at the level that we described in our fiscal note. It's about $10.5 million in year one and $11.5 million in year two. This too, surprisingly, was funded with state general fund. So it's pretty clear from my perspective that the Ds in the Senate intend this to be a permanent program. We have already begun the implementation design and planning process. I have a small working group that includes representatives of the HJPs, of the Pro Bono Council, of the courts, of tenant advocacy organizations and BIPOC communities working with us. We are actively exploring 11 implementation issue areas where decisions have to be made. We have to come up with a plan. We, meaning OCLA, has to come up and submit a plan 90 days following the governor's signature of the bill for implementation. Sequencing and prioritization are going to be key issues, as will building out, how are we going to build out the capacity? How are we going to recruit? How are we going to train? How are we going to ensure equity? How are we going to ensure quality control? How are we going to ensure consistency? And on and on and on. There's just a whole host of issues. I will promise you that there will be tremendous stumbles as we move forward. We're going to make a ton of mistakes. We know that, but we're going to be self-critical, self-aware, and we're going to be working to make sure that by the end of the 12-month initial implementation timeline, we're up, we're running, and tenants are getting the best representation they could possibly get in these cases. So that is moving forward. The House budget is released at 3 o'clock today. The House budget is not likely to include the eviction defense program because the House has yet to vote on the eviction defense program. The House Housing Committee, on the other hand, in a bipartisan vote, moved the bill forward, 5160. It's now in House Appropriations, and there still continues to be work done on the bill, but notably, neither the eviction resolution provisions nor the right to counsel provisions are at issue. There are other issues that members are still working on, but I believe that there is a strong consensus that the bill that will pass the House will include the right to counsel, which places us, interestingly enough, in the position of being the first state that will do a statewide tenant right to counsel. So we're writing on a clean whiteboard. We're learning from our colleagues in New York City and in Philadelphia and Cleveland about how their municipal-based programs work, but we also understand that substantive law and the operation of the courts in each of those jurisdictions is profoundly different than the Grace Harbor Superior Court and the King County Superior Court. So, so that's what I have. I think, and one last thing in the House budget, I do anticipate seeing funding for the phased roll-in of a right to counsel for children and youth in dependency cases. It will be limited to children ages 8 and over, and it will phase in over a period of 6 years.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion, questions for Jim and Will? Anyone? Let me check the other page so that I don't. Any question or comment for Jim and Will? All right. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Will. Some housekeeping things that I need to do. We are recording these so that others who are not able to make the meeting can rewatch it later. And also, we would like the person that is calling in on the phone that end with 681. For the sake of the minutes, we will want you to please introduce yourself. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry, this is Chach. It's because my internet keeps cutting out. Chach Duarte White.
Thank you, Chach. All right. Now we go to the next funding report. Cesar is here with us today. Cesar, take it away.
Thank you, Francis. Don't really have a whole lot to report on as far as the federal LSC budget process or funding situation. That doesn't really kick off in Congress until later this month, the whole budget setting processes. As I reported earlier, the Legal Services Corporation, as well as the NLADA, National Legal Aid and Defender Association, are all in on a more than doubling of current federal funding for legal services. And I think there's a lot of interest and anticipation that there will be a federal increase for the year beginning January 2022. But whether it's the usual 5, 10, 10 would be a good year, but or whether it's a really significant increase, 25, 50% or more, is the big question that lots of folks are hoping to learn more about. LSC did hold a big sort of gathering yesterday with the bipartisan chairs of the Legal Aid Caucus in Congress to sort of kind of like a, what do you call that, a cheering session to get the process started. And there were some very good presentations from some programs around the country about the COVID work of LSC funded programs. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Cesar. Any comments or question for Cesar? All right. Will wanted us to know that Team Child was also funded. The Senate's budget fully fund Team Child. We don't have any on the call today. Now we go next to Kathleen, LFW.
Hi, everyone. And just to follow up on Will's chat note, the great news about the increased appropriation for Teen Child is it's another $500,000 in new money for this legal aid system. So that's a victory, and congratulations to Teen Child and their advocates who made that new money happen. We've, you know, as Jim and Will have outlined, there's a lot of new victory for legal aid in this year's legislative session. So what I just wanted to say in my little window of time here on behalf of the Legal Foundation of Washington is actually a note of appreciation. You know, everyone knows that Jim and I, the Office of Civil Legal Aid and LFW agree 99.9% of the time, but we agreed 100% that we wanted to send an expression of thanks to the Alliance. We did a little reflecting about this crazy, unprecedented year of the lockdown resulting from COVID-19. And OCLA and LFW wanted to really just acknowledge our partners and in particular, thank legal aid providers for the steadfast commitment to low-income people in the face of this crisis that none of us were very well prepared for. I think the resilience and flexibility on behalf of the legal aid providers has enabled all of us as an alliance to pivot quickly and meet new needs and unexpected needs of people in our community. And Jim and I, you know, didn't want this weird 1 year anniversary to pass without really acknowledging the hard work and dedication of the legal aid providers who put clients and community first. So we don't know how things are going to unfold in the coming months, and obviously there's going to be so many things to consider as we move out of an emergency stage and move into re-emergence. But please accept this expression of gratitude for everything that this community has done. It's been amazing. I don't know if Melinda has been able to join the call yet this morning, but I see Natalia's on the phone or on the Zoom. And so maybe she can go ahead and give our resource development update.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thank you, Francis. Hi, everyone. I want to also welcome Dua. I see that she has stepped away, so I will follow up, but I'm looking forward to working with Dua and Anne. Thank you so much for working with us on the law firm campaign in 2020 during your interim term. And Dua will connect after the law firm campaign kicks off this fall. So I'm looking forward to partnering with KCBA again and under your leadership. So that'll be fun. The campaign always sponsors the ATJ Conference. So again, we're looking forward to doing that. I will follow up with Junior. We often host an in-person reception the first night of the conference. That's always really fun. So we'll be missing that, but we'll look forward to doing something virtual this year. Give Big, the campaign will be participating again this year. It's May 4th and 5th, and early giving starts on April 20th. So you'll start seeing information coming from our emails. And I encourage you to help spread the word about Give Big and contributing to the campaign and to all of our other programs that might be participating this year. The Associates campaign always is going into its third year. It'll happen in the fall during Pro Bono Week in October, but we are having a spring happy hour on April 29th with Justice Mary Yu as our featured speaker. Featured legal aid programs will be Columbia Legal Services and the KCBA's Housing Justice Project. So we're looking forward to hearing from all three of those speakers. Ed Witter will be representing HJP and Murph Eman from CLS. We are recruiting more firms to join. We have PCVA, Fal Cochran, Vertitas Amala just joined, this year for the 2021 year, and we're still recruiting. So this April 29 event is a recruitment event, not a fundraiser per se, but a chance for new firms to join and see what we're all about. So if you have any leads on other firms, let me know. Beer and Justice events are kicking off, of course. We've got our first one set for June 24th, Bellingham Beer and Justice, and we are we just confirmed Prosecutor Eric Ritchie in Whatcom County as our speaker, and we have an invitation out to some of the legislators up there. I believe Kirsten has reached out to Deb Lakonoff as a key supporter, so we hope that they can join us. We are also in the midst of planning Spokane events and one in Cowlitz, Wahkiakum, and many more to come, but that's on deck now. The Let's Talk About Injustice Race Equity Speaker Series is still rolling along, and the conversations have been really fruitful. I've been hearing good feedback. The next one will be April 20th with Murph Eamon and Ron Knox, and the focus is on action items and ways that you individually can take action as we work to become more anti-racist. Next, I want to update you all on our corporate campaign for equal justice. We are excited to have strong support from Amazon, Microsoft, and T-Mobile. We are recruiting more companies this year to join that effort. So I can continue to update you on that, but that is exciting to see it evolving. It's an effort by attorneys and all of the legal teams in those three companies are really helping us to engage the individual attorneys in the corporate space. Next up is, and my last update for y'all, is a LAFCO meeting. Our legal aid fundraising and communications roundtable will be April 29th at noon. Thanks to Lindy for all of your help in organizing that with me and Will. And we have Sal on the agenda for April 29th. He's going to talk with us about Pierce County's incredible efforts in 2020 to increase their donors, and they did by about 250 new donors, I think was the number. So that was huge, and we're excited to hear from Sal, so how he can fire up the boards of the other legal aid programs around the state. And that's my update. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Sal, you better give me ideas on how to increase our donors in Spokane County VLP.
I was looking for you for ideas. Are you kidding?
All right. Thank you so much, Natalia. We appreciate that. Next, we go to a presentation that I want you to give your attention to. It's not every day that you wake up east of the Cascade and you have a new civil legal aid organization started by a person of color. And this is the year that we get to celebrate in Eastern Washington. We have the foundation of a new civil legal aid organization in Spokane. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my good friend, Camerina Sorozua, who is going to be presenting to us the way to justice. It's a new civil legal aid organization that was started by her and another community member, Vala Spencer. These powerful African-American women have been an inspiration to me on many occasions. And I'm so grateful to them that they get to do the work that they have been, to continue to do the work that they have been doing for years in a new platform. So please join me in welcoming Cam Zuruzua and Vala Spencer to present the way to justice. Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Cam.
Thank you. I'm here with Verla Spencer. My name is Cam Zorozua. Thank you, Francis, for that really generous introduction. The respect goes both ways. And to those of you who I know, it's good to see you. If I haven't met you yet, good to meet you virtually. So you might recognize Verla and I from our last place of employment. We worked at the Center for Justice in Spokane. I had come on to do the post-conviction and reentry program work, and Verla had been running the driver's relicensing program for about a decade. Unfortunately, at around March, the end of March last year, the Center for Justice was in a position where it had to close its doors. So Verla and I have been working over the last 12 months to do what we could as individuals and people who are committed to this work to not only save our programs, but to build something that we felt was the best representation of civil legal aid that we knew we could provide to the community here in Eastern Washington. So we opened our doors. We had a soft opening back in February. We've been, slowly getting to the point where we're functioning as an office. We have a website, thewaytojustice.com. You can reach us there. We are the only driver's relicensing program available in Spokane, Washington now since the cities was ended, the city program in partnership with the county was ended. Our reentry work focuses on record vacating, relief from fines, LFOs, restoration of rights. We serve low-income clients in Eastern Washington, as I mentioned. We do not screen out anyone based on their immigration status. We've been collecting a nominal, like $150 flat fee from our clients. And we've received some generous donations. Our model for being strategically viable for the future is to have community supporting us. But of course, we're also going to need support from the legal community. So we're here to introduce the way to justice to you, and I'll hand it over to Verla Spencer.
Wow, she just summed it all up. We believe in the work that we do, and we want to be around for the next 20, 25 years. But in doing this work, we will need the help of you all to be able to spread the word about our organization and our mission that we offer. I have worked with a lot of you all in the past, and I hope to continue to work with you all in the future. As we also talk about our relicensing program, our post-conviction relief program, we are also looking to add a youth empowerment program that goes along with it, dealing with youth that have been traumatized, youth that is bound to end up in the system. We want to be able to prevent that from happening, and we want to give them a platform and teach them how to become leaders within our community. So we are looking to add that on as one of the programs that we offer here at the Way to Justice.
And of course, what makes us different, in our opinion, and from our experience working in civil legal aid in the legal community of Spokane for between the two of us over 25 years, is our approach. Being women of color who've been in this community for a significant enough period of time to see outcomes for people of color, we understand some of the impacts that these systems have on the communities that we serve. And so all of the work that we do goes through a race equity lens. So that, and I think it ties into the conversation that you all were having earlier about Judge Zimmerman. When we were at the Center for Justice, we had the opportunity to meet with people who not only qualified for our programs, but people who were actually experiencing racism within systems in that moment, be it in a school discipline situation or a housing situation, sometimes employment, whatever it may be. Not only to give them access to justice, so to speak, but to give them a voice beyond their own. Advocacy is very important to us. And in certain situations, certain rooms that we've been in, had we not been there, we worry about what might have happened, because by the time that we engage, the systems have already made decisions. And the people that we work with are really at their wits' end. They don't have any other resources to go to. So when we look at this case, and this is just a comment that we both felt compelled to bring up to you, we appreciate hearing from boards such as yours that you want to make a statement that this letter was being drafted. And of course, it's important to make a public statement in situations like this. But we would challenge you all to take a step back and look at the entirety of the situation that led up to this comment, because it didn't just happen in the courtroom. It started in the streets of Vancouver, and a 21-year-old's life was taken. I read there were 34 shots fired. And I think that, and I don't want to get emotional, but that's where we tend to focus in this work, is not just addressing outcomes necessarily, but really critically analyzing how did we get here? And I'll let you all know, and I'm sure any of you who have practiced recently in criminal law, the situation that led to Kevin Peterson Jr.'s death happens every single day, in the streets of Washington, in our cities. And essentially what it is it's policing people of color and treating them in nearly every situation as if they are somehow a threat to the personal safety of law enforcement, who has the benefit of training, protection, being well armed, and all of the power structure that goes along with working for the government. So I'll step back off of that. I just wanted to give you all an idea of how our organization approaches these issues in a really deliberate and thoughtful way.
Thank you, Cam and Vala. I believe there will be a lot of some comments and questions for you, but let me start out. Let me lead the question and comment. Cam, you are in leadership. You are the co-chair of the Spokane County Bar Association's pre-trial review of our justice, pre-trial first appearances review in all our 3 courts in Spokane, Washington. What do you think, how do you see the intersect between the criminal and the civil and in your work? How is the barrier between the criminal justice system and the civil justice system impact your work?
Well, in our experience, I mean, Verla and I have experience working throughout the system. So that might be through foster care, CPS involvement, criminal, civil. I mean, even, thinking about the relief that we help our clients achieve through civil motion practice, they all intersect. And I'm sure many of you have received trainings and even have personal experience understanding when a family is impacted by the justice system in one way, oftentimes their lives can be impacted in other ways too. So we often find that someone who might qualify for the driver's relicensing program has experienced issues within, different facets of the system, be it civil or criminal. But at the end of the day, the impact on their life, it doesn't really matter, because what they have to live with on a daily basis is the fact that if they don't have access to legal counsel or funds to obtain legal counsel, many people just feel like they don't even have access for relief, that there is no way for them to seek relief or to have their voices heard. And so a lot of what we do is just meeting clients exactly where they are and understanding how, be it civil justice systems, how the systems have impacted them. Caitlin, I see your hand raised.
Hi, it's so nice to see you guys again, and thank you so much for this presentation. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about, okay, so there's already two other legal aid programs, at least in Spokane County, including the volunteer lawyer program and Northwest Justice Project. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how you collaborate with them. Oh, and Team Child also, and how you if you can tell us a little bit more about how you collaborate with those organizations, as well as Columbia Legal Services, who's also doing some of the systemic work.
Sure. So I've worked with each of those organizations, both in my capacity at Center for Justice and here. I'll tell you with regard to Team Child, I understand that they can only serve clients up to age 25, I want to say. So if there's a potential client that doesn't qualify for them, I get referrals. So that could be somebody who's over the age of 25 who has a juvenile matter that needs to be sealed. I got a referral before we were even formally open. I took care of a case in Yakima that was referred from Team Child. Northwest Justice Project, I would say we're more accessible to the community because often people have to call the clear line and, you know, try and get it through that way. Our clients can directly contact us. So our website has a contact email, but if they want to get to a driver's relicensing, it's a direct communication to VERLA, or for my program, again, it's a direct communication. Unlike most of the other providers, we do not inquire on immigration or legal resident status. We don't even ask the question. So that's a few to start with. Columbia, I don't remember the last time I talked to someone from Columbia Legal, but I understood that they were doing more of like policy work. And while we do policy work and we do push for reforms, we balance that heavily with client work and casework.
When we also talk about the collaboration of Northwest Justice Project, we are very familiar with the work that they do, and they are familiar with the work that we do. If they get any type of referrals for the relicensing program, they will refer them over to us. If there are some things that they are unsure of or unclear of with their clients, they will reach out to us, and we're able to work the cases together. If there is any room for them to be able to advocate on our behalf to support us, they've also done that. Also, prior work that we have done with Team Child is we are able to step in and we are able to advocate along the lines that they are not. I know that when they are bound by certain things that they can and cannot do. And so when there's something else that needs to be done, they will often reach out to us, and we are able to do some things that they aren't able to do. So we are all working together as a whole to be able to ensure that we are able to meet the needs of the clients.
Thank you, Verla, and thank you for Cam. It's really nice to hear from you and see you again.
You too.
Okay. And I think the platform for us in Eastern Washington that we use for collaboration with NJP, CLS, and everyone has been our regional planners meeting, which has been led by NJP. NJP leadership of our regional planners meetings has been a solid rock of support for us in Eastern Washington. So I just wanted to bring that. And CLS is helping us with our jail, whatever they want to call it, whatever jail work they want to do. They've been able to help us push back on the county efforts to build a bigger jail and all of that. So CLS, we are grateful to you for that work.
Yes, and I think that they've offered some really essential support to the Smart Justice Spokane Coalition.
Any more comment or question for Cam? Judge Corbett, I see you. I can't see you anymore. Judge Corbett, you have anything for Cam and Vala?
No, but I'm pleased to see Spokane improving with their efforts.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Vala and Cam? Thank you so much,
Thank
Cam
you.
and Vala.
It's been a pleasure. You'll see more of us.
I would also want to encourage you, Cam and Vala, to talk to, I believe Diana will connect you with Prachi Dave, she's leading the effort on the civil criminal and the reentry work that the DISCO board, the DISCO committee of the ATJ board is doing. And I think that your voice at the table will be very, very important to the work. So Diana would help us to connect you on that. All right, thank you. Now we go to a liaison report. I want to start, I hope Judge Anderson is still with us. I think she is. I want to start with her because she provided the letter from the Superior Court Judges Association and the DMCJA to me, which I forwarded to the community yesterday. So Judge Anderson, could you provide an insight on what DMCJA and the Superior Court, and the joint letter? Thank you. Go ahead.
So what I do know about that letter is that the presidents of the Superior Court Judges Association and the District Municipal Court Judges Association jointly wrote that letter, and I was so pleased to be able to get it to you before our meeting today. And other, I want to make sure that I stay within the confines of the Code of Judicial Conduct. So I think that the letter will speak for itself to all of you. And I encourage you to read it. And thank you very much for giving me this moment.
Thank you, Judge Anderson. Okay, liaison report, Gender and Justice, Sal.
Thank you, Francis. Gender and Justice Commission met just a couple of weeks ago, on March 12th. I'll report on 2 items. One, to tell everybody, remind everybody, if you haven't heard this yet, they're holding a Supreme Court symposium on June 2nd. June 2nd, the title is Women and Girls of Color Behind the Bars, dealing with the increased incarceration of youth and women. And I think there's going to be a big focus on LGBTQ issues during the conference. It's from 8:45 until 1. And the keynote speaker, I believe they've nailed down now, is Angela Davis. So this should be an extremely good program. Second item I want to inform everybody about is that they're completing their gender justice study, how gender impact in Washington justice system, and really looking at the commercial sex and exploitation, what is otherwise known as sex trafficking, again, of women. Looking at the COVID impact, economic pressures on women, and the lack of data sharing among governmental agencies. So this is a big study that they're doing, a very important one. And just want to make sure all of you know about it.
Thank you, sir. Caitlin is asking, can everyone go to the Gender and Justice Conference?
That's my understanding. Yes, it's open.
And Sal, if I pointed this out to Justice McLeod in a meeting earlier this week, I think the Gender and Justice Commission need to help us educate our judges on identification on sexual orientation. When anyone appears before the court and they said, this is my sexual orientation, no judge have a right to keep referring to them by whatever, whatever record you have in your system. If I say I'm a transgender person, there is need for education on this front. This continues to happen frequently, and it just breaks my heart to continue to see this happening. And it's just not fair and not right. So if it's something that the Gender and Justice Commission could help us address with the judges, we would appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Other liaison reports. Terry, any reports?
Oh, Francis, you are singing my song about name and name changes, and that leads into my talk from the Court Recovery Task Force about technology and technology changes. So Janice or Diana, can you make me a co-host, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and this is a chart that just went out to the Court Recovery Task Force folks about the implementation of e-filing at the Superior Court level. Now, the district and municipal courts are going to get, thank you so much, are going to get all one package, all 300 or so courts, starting implementation in the middle of the year. And they will have a full suite of new and shiny settings, including text notifications and things. And remember what I've talked about before is there will be cost shifting of $5 per filing packet onto the litigants. And that is what the courts are calling cost neutral, which I insist the access to justice community considers cost shifting on the people who are least likely to be able to afford that. And so, but the Superior Courts, it has been a very different rollout because there are 39 of them, and they fall into several groups. So I just want to share this. If you wonder why our clients don't understand our court system, it's because nobody understands our court system. So starting at the bottom, we have two non-Odyssey courts, King and Pierce, that don't play well with each other, that may or may not have e-filing for self-represented litigants. And that represents, their population represents 40% of the state, 3 million out of 7.6 million people. But here you are divided into who is using the Odyssey system and its document management service, and then which counties are using the Odyssey system, but some off the shelf thing. And so you have 12, 14, 15 that are doing their own thing. You've got another 22, I believe, that are trying to link up to e-filing in Odyssey. The thing to realize, for instance, is that Spokane and Clark, which are two very large counties, are not going to be integrated systems in the same way that some of the smaller ones like Wahkiakum and Whitman and Stevens are going to be integrated. And so there's going to be the continued digital divide is just going to get worse. This is going to have a multiplier effect on the digital divide. And if you think about a litigant who lives in King, but may have a matter in Snohomish and may have a matter in Pierce, and we know that folks from historically marginalized communities have multiple matters and could be in multiple counties, they're going to have to learn, and they're self-represented, they're going to have to learn 3 different systems. And so this is a continual thing that impacts the access to justice for self-represented litigants. And I will continue to make our voice heard on this.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that. Any comment or question for Terry? Okay, I want to report on interpreters.
I have a question for Terry.
Okay,
Sorry.
SP.
Hold on, I need to.
Now one of your microphones is working.
Yeah. Is it working now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So Terry, in 2 sentences, what is it going to take to change that? Yeah.
2 sentences? 2 sentences. I think there's going to have to be some work around the administrative office of the courts to unify a non-unified system. And and I see Salmangia, who knows much more about this than I do, shaking his head no. And it's going to require, I think, a lot of carrots from the AOC. They don't have many sticks, but they could have a lot of carrots. And there are things that they could do, like a common digital signature for self-represented litigants across the state, that would solve some problems here.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other comments? Okay, Sal, go ahead, Sal.
It's not happening. I mean, we saw this thing coming down the pike in 1999, right? In 2009, what the problem was at the very beginning, King and Pierce had 2 different systems, the 2 big leaders, and they weren't willing to match up. And then from then it was just a poop show. So yeah, it's gonna take a miracle in my mind. Sorry, Dave. I can see you making worry about the strong language. I apologize.
Aren't we miracle makers?
I would suggest that when the ATJ board meet with the Supreme Court, I understand part of the challenges is because of the funding system. The funding mechanism, all the municipal and district court judges are funded locally, and majority of their funding are sourced locally. So you can't tell them what to do if their local government doesn't have the means to be able to provide a platform and all of that. But there is a need for the ATJ board to have a conversation with the Supreme Court about this issue. This is affecting access to justice. Our commitment to lowering the barrier for economic and other people with economic and other significant barriers is right on the junction of this issue. So Terry, I say don't give up. Keep up the representation. Thank you.
I
Francis,
think also never underestimate the power of community pressure. If we bring the community into this, I think because I think that's one of the pieces that's missing.
I agree, SP. And Francis, just to add on to your point, it's local funding, it's county commissioner funding for also Superior Court. And so the Superior Court say we can't change, it's what our county commissioners tell us. So it's for not only district and municipal, but it's also for Superior Court.
All right. Cesar, I agree with you. Unified court system now. That's what we need. Thank you. I know Judge Keenan, Superior Court Judges Association, any liaison reports?
No updates, Francis. Thank you.
All right. Michelle, any reports?
No, thank you.
Miria, any reports?
Well, I have a couple of updates from the Pro Bono Council, and it says that they have been working on proposed changes to RPC 6.5 to clarify the notice requirements when conflicts of interest arise during limited assistance sessions like legal clinics. This change is open for comment now at the Washington Supreme Court and will greatly improve the safety of clients. I don't want to speak for Michael. I can see him if he wants to comment on that. And also the Pro Bono Council has worked to increase access to technology for clients through the use of more than 20 donated computers and some COVID funding that was soon to expire used for that. And then this means that Zoom rooms, loaner laptops, and things like community kiosks in many more locations will be available. And I think that's kind of my own comment. I think that's great and an opportunity to collaborate with community.
Thank you, Miria. Interpreters Commission. I want everyone to know that since the accession of Justice Gonzalez as the Chief Justice, we have since appointed Judge Raul from King County as the new chair of the Interpreters Commission. So if you have any concerns or comments or anything about Interpreters Commission, don't send it to Justice Gonzalez anymore. Please route it to Judge Raul. And she's our leader. She's doing phenomenal work. I'm really happy to be able to work with her. So that's much from the Interpreters Commission is doing a lot of work around access for interpreters in jail and access to, and doing some rule changes. I hope to bring a fuller report at the next month meeting. All right. Judge Bradley, any report from the Board of Governors or any other report?
Francis, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I go because I think my battery's going to die, and I just have a very brief report. MJ.
Judge Bradley, hold that thought.
Sorry,
go ahead,
SP. So the Minority and Justice Commission met in March, and there was a presentation by Professor Brian Adams from the School of Law at NSU regarding the State v. Gaines Court of Appeals case regarding their decision on their opinion that the trial court erred in not recognizing the discretion to remove LFO debt from collections. So it's the whole LFO issue. Also, the letter from the state Supreme Court back in June, created a different kinds of things, and one of them was a Washington State Racial Justice Consortium, which actually has its launch meeting this afternoon that was put together, and there was some discussion about that and looking at what the purpose and the goals are of that particular consortium to put together plans and address the structural changes needed to address racism, the policies and practices within our legal system. There was mentioned about the the announcement about the full day CLE on qualified immunity on May 7th, which is sponsored by all three of the law schools. Updates by the staff on the LFO work and some of the research that is being done with counties. King County, they were able to collect 10 years of King County bail practices and plan to do that with Clark and Thurston County as well. Let's see, very impressive presentations by the law students from the University of Washington on protest and historical legacy of racism in the justice system. And Gonzaga the Gonzaga law students worked on informational PSAs, if you will, about the Minority Justice Commission, but also it really reflected on what is the legal system doing to issues affecting the community, and they were done in English and Spanish and actually done really, really well, very much relatable to community. So that was very impressive. I want to get a copy of it. It's, let's see, and the Seattle Youth School of Law students put together a law students toolbox for social justice advocacy, so the students can get a better idea of how they can be engaged in communities. There were also different reports from the various communities. And that's in a nutshell.
Thank you. Just to add to that, the Executive Committee of the Access to Justice Board has appointed Paige Addy from Just Lead and myself to represent the ATJ Board on the Racial Justice Consortium. So if you have any issues that you want to bring up, that you want us to highlight, please send it to Paige and myself, or send it directly to the Racial Justice Consortium. They have recently appointed Patricia Lally as the coordinator for the projects, and she's doing a good job. So that's so much for liaison report. Did I miss out on it? Lindy, do you have anything? Thank you, Lindy. Judge Corbett, any liaison report?
I'll just say briefly about LLT. While Washington seems to be contracting the use of LLTs, and you all know the story there, it's interesting. Stanford University is studying the issue, comparing Washington's contraction to other states expanding the use of LLTs in the hope of providing more access to justice. So people are squinting at what we did and cocking their head and can't quite figure it out.
Some of us can't either.
All right. Thank you. Any other liaison reports? Diana, anything that I missed? All right. Any updates? Please take note that this committee is first Tuesday of the month at 3:30 p.m. And Technology Committee is third Tuesday of every other month. I believe this month was rearranged. Terry, is that correct? By the way, I want everyone to know that Terry is stepping in. Judge Bradley is stepping down as chair of the Technology Committee, and Terry Price is going to be the chair of the Technology Committee. Terry, about the change of meeting dates?
I think that was for a special meeting, not for, I think the regularly scheduled meeting is still on the same time.
Thank you. And the Rules Committee meets third Tuesday every other month at 12 p.m. from 12 to 1 p.m. Any other announcements? All right, I give you 3 minutes this month. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending. We appreciate you. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.